And Kyrie got a lot of buckets last night, but I just don't. I think his attitude is a problem, and I think Kyrie is a problem is the problem in Boston.
I don't think he's the problem. I think there is a problem in Boston, and no one is being fully transparent about this. So they're punting the issue down the field and saying, okay, when it matters most in the postseason, we're going to hit the switch, and we'll deal with that issue then, and we'll play ourselves into success, and that won't happen. The issue is twofold for me. One, Brad Stevens, wonder coach. I'm not hearing the genius of Brad Stevens. I'm gonna let
It's been quiet.
It's been quiet, right? That criticism, and I need to hear a little more of a roar from that. But Gordon Hayward, I get it. This is where I become heartless in sports. We grade you because they're grading you when you're on the court, injured or not, coming off injury or not. And imagine being on a team that went to Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Then you add Kyrie, and you think he's going to be great. And then you got a guy getting 27 minutes a game, and he's averaging 11 points. Now, is this a charity case we're doing out here, or are we really just going to evaluate players for what they are? He's under a guaranteed contract. He's not going anywhere. Work on your game. Do something. But you're giving this guy starter minutes and getting bench production. And I think all the guys notice this. And then when you're a guy like whoever it could be, Jason Tatum, you got to go on the bench or whatever it may be, and you're Marcus Smart, and he's like, I'm not getting burned, and this dude's out there getting burned, I think that could eat up a locker room.
Well, look, Gordon Hayward, I kind of feel sorry for him because he's not back to form, obviously. He's still trying to work himself into the mix. The Boston Celtics have invested a lot of money, time, resources, and trying to get this guy back on the floor. So I understand what they're trying to do and giving as much minutes as possible without hurting the team to see if he can regain some type of form that he had in Utah. Now, with all that being said, I agree with you 100%. I don't necessarily think Kyrie is the problem, but he's the face of the problem over there in Boston. And for some reason, I just think people are kind of hiding. I brought up Brad before, but they're kind of like hiding this guy, shielding him when all we heard last year was he was the next coming of Phil Jackson. He knows how to push every single button. His X's and O's are the best. And there's no doubt about it. I think X's and O's wise, coaching, his structure, his discipline, everything is great. It's impeccable. But when it comes to managing egos, when you have to sit a player down, talk to him, have some dialogue, say, hey, how can we get on the same page? Build a relationship. That's what I'm not hearing coming from the Boston Celtics. And then Kyrie, just a bad dynamic, a mix of his ego and things of that nature. So I think those kind of blend together is why we are where we're at with the Celtics.
Well, we're talking about spreading the blame around because it can't just go on one person, one individual. Let's start with coaches. You talk about this. To me, in the regular season, coaches manage minutes, egos, and injuries. That's what they do during the regular season. And once you get in the playoffs, that's when you really dive into the X's and O's. Brad Stevens' background was one at Butler where he had overachievers. Okay? He can allow the locker room to really police itself because they weren't overly talented, so they bought in. When you're successful, everything you do now is like, oh, A+. Oh, he's doing well. There's no conflict last year. He didn't have that. Things were rolling. This year now, he couldn't really dive into holding people accountable, okay? So that's one issue. Second issue, we talked about this yesterday. Young players now feel it's my time. I got to come in here and prove myself based on what I did last year. I need to get better. My next contract is coming up. I want to be the guy. I'm anointed next. You're dealing with that. Kyrie, okay? As the face of an organization, you have to be responsible to handle this tough situation, okay? When you don't feel like it, when you don't feel like answering the question, when you don't feel like playing, you may be a little hurt, you're the guy, okay? And he's not handling that part well. So when you put all of that together, and the main person you don't hear from is probably the most stable is Al Horford, okay? He's out of the mix. That's a guy that should provide the stability for the team, and you don't really hear from him from that. So you got all this stuff going on. You wonder why the Celtics are struggling. It's a mixture. It's like gumbo, bro.
Yeah.
Bad gumbo.
I still go back to Kyrie, and it's just like his words here. To me, you can hear him and think he's saying, hey, once we get to the playoffs, it's really going to matter and things are going to work themselves out. What I actually hear is a guy, can't wait till we get to the playoffs and get this. Because, it's win or go home at some point in the playoffs, and he can go home and I can go to New York, I can go with Kevin Durant, I can start something new. because this year ain't working.
Kyrie, a couple games ago, said in response to one question, go ask Brad Stevens. Go ask Brad. And to your point, do you think he's being handcuffed? Like, when you know there's a problem, when you know this is the problem, but that guy is being protected and coached to the point where you are the face and you're taking all the hits, but you can't call him out? You think that's the dynamic?
I don't think he's being protected, though. I think Brad Stevens' resume is his resume. The guy had incredible success at Butler. When he came into the NBA, incredible success. Took that team to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's going to buy you some leeway.
It does.
And deservedly so.
Is it buying Kyrie the leeway to hit the game-winning shot in the NBA Finals and be so close?
It did buy him some leeway, and that's why he got to he takes the most shots. He gets, despite the team being successful, he gets to be the guy. This was embarrassing for me, just as an NBA fan and a basketball fan, that I'm watching a game like, oh, this ain't even a real game. That the New Orleans Pelicans have virtually no interest in winning, and we get it when teams tank, but this is like on a different level. The second best player, or arguably the best player in that game, doesn't play after midway through the third quarter. That's crazy, and it just puts when you got LeBron on the court, it just puts a big highlight and focus on the fact, oh, man, some of these games just don't matter at all.
Yeah, it's a bad look. If you think about it, neither side is winning. It's crazy. The NBA, I guess, in a tug-of-war with the New Orleans Pelicans, and in any negotiation, you want to win-win. And if not that, at least a win for one side. Neither side is winning. Think about it. The NBA is like, okay, you got to put them out there. They're like, yeah, we're going to put them out there, but not in crunch time, not in meaningful time. And then New Orleans is not winning as well because they're not letting their franchise player play the 37 minutes he was playing all year until his demand. So I don't know which way is up in this situation. It's just a horrible look for the NBA.
It's a bad look because, one, I feel for Alvin Gentry, who was my assistant coach at Phoenix, because this goes on his resume as losing, okay? So he's preaching to his team about winning and, finishing out the season, but yet and still organization says the best player has to sit down. Teammates, same thing. Why would I want to be here? Okay, you asking me to go out there and put it on the line, but you're not giving me the opportunities to win, okay? And it's a tough situation because the NBA says, Chris, as you know, you can't sit a player if he's not hurt. Okay, well, we don't want our franchise player to get hurt, so we'll play him in the first quarter, second quarter, third. He may get hurt in the first. Listen, when I tore my ankle up, it was 7 minutes in the game in the first quarter. He can get hurt in the first quarter as he can in the fourth. It's just a bad look all the way around.
We've had incidents or precedents that when a player is not a part of of that team's future, they sit that player. They did it with Eric Bledsoe. They did it with J.R. Smith, numerous other players. Shannon Parsons. But the problem is Anthony Davis is of a superstar caliber. And I think if the NBA sat back and first of all, he shouldn't be playing. He shouldn't be playing. I'm usually all for the players and their right and their freedom to do what they feel. But in this regard, New Orleans has everything to lose in allowing this kid to continue to play. He has an injury history. And so one thing why the NBA's integrity is being killed with this situation right now, because you're playing them 22, 23 minutes. Everybody knows what you're going to do. They know that you're not out there trying to win, even though the game was close. The game is close. The Pelicans got a shot, and then they pull Anthony Davis for the remaining 15 minutes of the game. That just looks so dumb on many levels. That's why this is looking like a blunder. If they need to sit him, the NBA needs to allow the Pelicans to sit him the remainder of the season.
But what's weird about it is Porzingis got traded for value, and he was injured. So this whole narrative that he can't play because if he gets hurt, it's going to kill his trade value. Is that really going to be the thing? Anthony Davis is on a trade market. You think they're not going to be? But
I think when you're a small market team and the injury history that Anthony Davis does have, they have to protect themselves.
Max value.
They got to get max value. They got to protect themselves.
Marcellus, I was going to go to, and you can help me, because would anything like this ever happen in football?
No.
I can't.
You know why? Football, and I learned this being a player rep for 9 years, they talk about uniformity. So you got to think about the umbrella of the NFL is really about the jerseys and the name on the front. So a lot of interchangeable parts, including as long as you're playing under the umbrella of the NFL, we don't care. Small market, big market, you go to this team, to this team. NBA is star-driven. You guys talk about the individual. So now it gets individualized with the player and the team. Which team is this, though? Is this a small market team? Is this beneficial for the league? So when you have those kind of fragments, all of a sudden you're not looking at it like this is for the greater good of the league. You're talking about just one market or one player. That's why there's contradiction. Eric Bledsoe, go ahead. Yeah. Oh, you a superstar? No, you can't. But in the NFL, they just think about it all under one umbrella, NFL.
This is a problem I think they need to fix.
They meaning the NBA?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. It's counterintuitive. We don't want you to tank, but you got to do this, okay? They know that New Orleans, from the perspective of where they're at, has to maximize Anthony Davis, okay? They know that in the office. But yet and still, you're forcing their hand to have to play a guy they're trying to protect. So what's the options for the NBA? Because this is a rule already in place. What's their option?
I think one of the things they're going to have to address, like, they're going to have to go really big picture because the max contracts you can get from your hometown teams don't seem to be enough incentive to keep those guys loyal. So maybe they're going to have to go even further, make it even more financially beneficial to re-sign with your...
But here's the thing. Agents are smart. How they got around the max salary contracts, supermax, is, okay, we'll circumvent it. We'll do 1-2 year deals, get our bird rights, and we'll circumvent it. There's always going to be a different avenue from an agent's perspective. Keep in mind, free agency is a fallacy because if I'm an unrestricted free agent, I should be able to go to market and get what the market bears. By restricting me to say I can only make the most here at my home team and not in the market, is not really free agency.
Yeah, and it came back to bite them. They thought Supermax was going to just be the glue. Yep. You're not going anywhere. You get a Supermax.
These teams
Who has signed a Supermax? One person?
These teams have 7 to 8 years with these players under contract to show these players that they should be committed to this organization because we're trying to do the right thing. They didn't do that in AD case.
Yep.